What is up, everybody? Welcome back, all of you COD fans. I hope you enjoyed CWL London. Well, as the thumbnail and title would suggest, we know who our winner is. 100 Thieves able to find themselves their first championship here in Black Ops 4, and really strong looks for this team all the way through their winner's bracket. But I'm going to go through all of the games that we saw today, kind of give you some ideas, some analysis, and I also am going to break down a couple other things going on. Before I get digging in, I will again just remind you at the end of the video, I'll be going over a little more specifically the Charlie and Delta streams that were not casted that I will be going back and recasting, or at least the option. I'll leave it up to you guys to leave me comments as far as which games you want to see. I'll leave you a list at the very end. That's also going to be with an eye tracker on. I just ordered it yesterday. It should be here tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing that to kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm looking at while I'm casting, and maybe it'll kind of help your experience as what you should be looking for or what you could be looking at while the game is progressing. It should be interesting for me too, because I'm trying to grow as a caster, and that'll help me, see things, I guess. See what I'm seeing, I guess, is the best way of saying it. Let's dig in, though, to what we had coming in. Now, go back, and we'll start to take a look at what the winner's bracket was first, because that's where we left things off. Again, OpTic Gaming taking out FaZe Clan 3-0 before they would go against the Heretics with a 3-0. They would be one of our two teams in the winner's finals. 100 Thieves would also find themselves a 3-0 against eUnited, and then they would be able to 3-2 in reverse sweep fashion against Gen G in the semis to be in that winner's final versus OpTic Gaming. That was what today was really kind of pinned up for, was that rematch from the pool play, and of course before that the regular season of cross divisional. In the losers bracket, though, the games we had to get through first and where our broadcast started was with eUnited and Heretics and Gen G and Envy. And before we started off these, there's actually Mindfreak in the open division brackets actually made their way through the losers bracket and found 2-3-0 versus Kairos Esport, which is mostly an EU UK centric team. So Mindfreak would actually be your open bracket champions. Congratulations to the APAC boys out there. That's 2 events in a row now that they finished in the finals, a second place finish and a first place finish now. So Australia is still kicking in, even though they have very little representation anywhere else besides the APAC. But let's dig into the games we had today. We had Heretics and eUnited. That was the first game that was up, so we'll start our broadcast there. You'll see that it was a 3-0 there and a 3-1 for Envy. But this set with the Heretics and eUnited, it was really interesting because Heretics had a really strong start to their winner's bracket after going 3-0 in the pools. However, here, it was all Simp and Clayster to start things off. It was 80 to 250 on the hard point. A very close and back and forth search and destroy, 5-6. And then it would be a 1-3 favoring eUnited on Seaside Control, a map that they've looked very, very good at throughout the entirety. So Heretics, unfortunately, not able to wake up and get themselves more of a shot against eUnited. But to be fair, eUnited looked absolutely dominating in this first matchup and would continue to do that throughout the majority of their games. Going over to the other game, though, Envy would be going up against Gen G, and again, most of you know how highly I had rated Gen G, and I still rate them very highly. It was interesting watching this match because it was a very good set, all things considered. Mostly in the respawns, it was very, very good, but Team Envy, again, Decimate just keeps getting better and better, and the synergy that he's finding with Huke, Silly, all of the gang, Aches, of course, as well as Pharaoh, is just really showing up that he is an absolute all-star in this league. Pharaoh had a very good day. Aches played okay. He played well enough to not really be noticed all that much. And then, of course, you have Huke and Silly who do Huke and Silly things. The match would go starting off with a 209 to 250 for Gen G. Interesting to see Gen G again doing very well throughout this tournament in the respawn hardpoint specifically. And then it would be a 6-2, very convincing search and destroy for Envy before we would go to a pretty close control, but Envy would be able to eke things out on frequency of 3-1 there. And then we would finish things off with a 250 to 218 win for Team Envy on Hacienda Hardpoint. A very good hardpoint set between these two teams. Even the control was good. The search and destroy is more one-sided. But Team Envy came out on fire, and they looked like they were going to be a major threat. So our championship bracket would be EU and Team Envy in the losers bracket going all the way through, and it would be 100 Thieves and OpTic in the winners bracket. We'll jump on forward to our final bracket to give it a little bit of an easier look. And we saw eUnited and Team Envy going up, like you mentioned. And both of these games individually were actually really fun to watch for different reasons. Obviously, the OpTic fans, as they come out in droves, we're ready to see OpTic take down 100 Thieves for the second time and move into the finals, but that wouldn't happen here. A 3-1, but we'll start down in the losers bracket with with eUnited finding another convincing 3-0 versus Team Envy. Insane looks from this squad, who did not have much of a problem with what was a very good Team Envy squad. 250 to 165, 6-2 on the search, and a 3-0 control. Simp was a monster, just flat out. He's been dominating throughout all the searches, but his SOG gameplay mixed in with the BZ, both of those SOGs have been incredible. One of the only teams here that was running consistently double SOGs no matter what the map. Genji really the only other one, and you could even make a consideration because Havoc was bouncing back and forth a little bit, but to be able to go this double SOG against a very solid front line of Huke and Decimate was really, really impressive. eUnited found themselves that 3-0 rather convincing, and then almost as convincingly, 100 Thieves up against OpTic would find themselves the 3-1. It was a pretty solid set in the respawns. Again, the search and destroys were all over the place for these teams this weekend, it felt like. 250 to 180 and a 250 to 183 on the hard points favoring 100 Thieves. It was a 1-6 though on the search and destroy favoring OpTic, who honestly had a very good weekend with search and destroy going 6-2, but they were only 5-5 in total in the hardpoint, which was obviously not good enough to get past 100 Thieves here. It would be a 3-2 on the control, a very good respawn between these two teams, but 100 Thieves just having the edge, and 100 Thieves looked a lot better in the later, well, throughout today, really speaking, in their control, rather than what they had looked like previously. Their first couple of games were a little bit all over the place, but they ended up finishing off the weekend at 5-2 on the control, which is back to where you want to be. This was a team that was 13-5 previously to London in control, the best in the business. So then going into our losers bracket finals, the third place matchup, it would be OpTic taking on eUnited, and again, eUnited came out and would have very little problems. It was a competitive set, it was a fun set, but again, Simp just took over. It would be a 3-0 with a 250-197 hardpoint on Arsenal, and then a 6-4 on the payload, favoring eUnited, who have been just actually a little bit better than OpTic in the search and destroy, but just as mediocre in the respawns. And then it would be a 3-1 in the control, but 10-2 is eUnited on search and destroy after the weekend. That's insane. They played very, very well, only dropping a 5-6 loss and a 4-6 loss. That was against Envy the first time and 100 Thieves the first time. Obviously, the second will be here in the Grand Finals. Again, eUnited would have to do 2 best-of-5s if they wanted to make their way through and find success and obviously a championship. When was the last time we could talk about Clayster and championship in the same sentence? It's been quite some time. And how about this? Simp, after winning Fort Worth with an open team of FaZe Clan Black, now in the Grand Finals, just one event later with eUnited. That's absolutely insane. The set was a little all over the place, with moments of brilliance for each of the teams, finishing off with what would be 100 Thieves as the victor. We already talked about it, but a 3-1 for them. It would start off on Hacienda for the hardpoint, 250 to 176 to 100 Thieves, and then we would go to Gridlock, Search and Destroy, and it would be a 6-1 for eUnited. A very convincing 3-0 Gridlock hardpoint. That's the same that it went the first time they played. That's the only map that they actually repeated, I believe. No, they also played Hacienda hardpoint, which it was not nearly as close this time as it was the first time. And then a very back and forth and very dramatic last hard point, 238 to 250, favoring 100 Thieves. I am going to go back and pick out pieces of that match to do analysis on. So definitely keep that in mind, because that's something that I want to make sure we're doing a little bit more of, is some more analytical work. And I will be going back and picking apart the big moments of that. I'm not going to do the full map. I'm going to pick the big kind of monumental moments for each of the teams and why they were what they were. But it would be 100 Thieves at the end of the day, winning things out and giving themselves a much-deserved championship. And I gotta sit here and just talk one more thing. If you missed this event, you should go back and rewatch it, because the crowd was absolutely insane. If you are a UK native and you did not go to the London event, I think you missed out. There were many moments where this crowd was absolutely bonkers. It definitely rivaled that of what was going on in IEM Sydney, if you're paying attention to what all those chants and crowds looked like out there. Insane looks. But this one here at London looked insane with all the chants. Again, LG coming on the back end of a lot of the negativity, again, because of that FaZe set, which, yes, we all know FaZe should have won that map. But it was wild to see the crowd do this, and I really hope that we see more of this kind of style in the crowds and less of, let's go team name, let's go clap, clap. So boring. I loved seeing all the chants, the songs, and all that stuff. It was really, really energetic and made for a very special event. very excited to at least be a part of it from a viewing standpoint. Wish I could have been there for sure, but I'm hoping that all of you that were there had a good time, and those of you that were nearby are kicking themselves because you should have gone. We've got Anaheim coming up, and that's happening, I believe, in the middle of June. Yes, it is, the very middle of June, and then we'll be dealing with the Miami finals for the league, as well as the qualifiers, technically, for the Open Am teams. That'll be happening in July before we get to World Championships. That'll happen in August. Again, the finals is the league finals, but then we also have World Championships. So kind of take it as the regular season finals playoffs for the CWL teams, as well as qualifying the top 16 Open teams, because then it'll be a 32-team bracket that will occur for World Championships just about a month later. Beyond that, though, here's my list of teams that I'm kind of looking at to potentially do coverage of, so let me know if any of these pop off. Hit me in the comments with which ones you would like to see. These are all from day one as well, and most of these are relatively close games, and I would be happy to cover them. Some of them a little bit more lopsided than others. FaZe versus EG was a 3-2 game that really kind of went one way or the other. The maps themselves weren't super close. Heretics versus UIU was a relatively competitive 3-0 for Heretics. LG versus Denial was a very exhausting 5-game set, which it showed some weaknesses and maybe some of the things of why we were kind of doubting both of these teams. Envy versus EG was a 3-1 for Evil Geniuses. That stayed relatively close. Midnight versus UIU went 5. It was ugly, but it was competitive. E6 versus Reciprocity. It was a 3-1 there for E6. Stayed pretty competitive all the way throughout with a couple of exceptions. And then UIU and Elevate were there from day one. Again, not the sexiest match in the world, but still relatively competitive. Day 2 streams, not as many, so I'll get them this quickly. Denial versus Midnight was a 3-1 for Midnight. It was ugly, but again, competitive. Reciprocity versus Evil Geniuses. That was also a 3-1 that would favor Rec. That one was very early in the morning, so a lot of people didn't get a chance to see that one, I'm sure. Elevate versus Luminosity went 5, and again, it was big question marks for both teams. Envy versus E6 was by far, I'm going to do this one, so don't even comment. This was a great set, I thought personally. It went pretty close to being neck and neck as it could be, so I will be doing that one. Reciprocity versus UIU, that was a 3-1 for Reciprocity. That was very close throughout. Again, another one that I'll likely do. And then Envy and Splice, which I think a lot of you want, that was a 3-1 for Envy, but honestly, the set was not all that super close. And then beyond that, if you're looking for open streams, I know that Charlie ended up doing open throughout the rest of the day, including games from Aspire, Mindfreak, Kairos, and Sage. All of those teams doing relatively well. All of those were top 6 teams, actually. So if you're interested in catching any open streams specifically, please let me know in the comments below. And if you see your game already posted from somebody else, just give it an upvote. I'll probably just go with whoever's most like, or comment on that as well as saying ditto, whatever it happens to be. I will also be doing some more things with this show, making it more of a show, including a segment that I'm going to be calling Bookie's Worst Nightmare, where I'll be going over specific stats in comparison to the bet lines and kind of show you what I think are favorable bets coming through. I had really good predictions throughout this week, and I'll make sure I flaunt that just a touch when I do that segment. And I also will be doing some more interview style things. I'm just waiting on those resources to get built so I can go ahead and schedule them. So this channel will be popping off a little bit more. I'll be doing more regular content. Coming up immediately after, I will be doing a power rankings kind of wrap up for the event, showing where I think teams should be placed based on the event performance here. That'll be kind of more mathematical than opinionated, so it should be a pretty accurate take as far as where the actual power standings are for these teams. And then I'll also be doing a couple of videos on the franchising rumors and what you should be ignoring versus what is important, and who might also be looking to bid into the CWL for 2020. So those will be really interesting if you're not familiar. And of course, beyond that, more analysis videos. I've talked for too long. Thank you for dealing with the end of this video. If you are still watching and you enjoy this content, you love my production, I thank you so much for letting me know how much you guys enjoy it. It means a lot to me because I do put a lot of hours into editing, and I want to make sure that things look as good as possible. Keep tuned to the channel for more information later as far as other things going on with my live stream. And of course, if you want to join my Discord, you're more than welcome to join in the conversations that we have about CWL and Call of Duty there. Until next time, though, I'll stop talking. Hope you guys keep holding it down. Later, bye-bye.